it doesn't get talked about much, but it was put in to save jobs. Amphenol was leaving. They had an agreement with the village, for the town of Sydney, to stay as long as they got natural gas. So, along with what you were saying about keeping jobs in the communities, it's in lower energy prices. It's here. It's in our community.
That was one of three stipulations Amphenol stated. They wanted cheaper electricity, they wanted cheaper fuel so they could run their machinery, and they wanted some economic support. So there was three provisions in order to keep Amphenol.
They don't want jobs here, they want a retirement village.
Right,
That's what they want
exactly
here.
it. They want no
They
change.
want their city people to come up and have a nice, clean air and clean water. And that's about it.
Well, you know, my point here, you know, from my perspective, guys, you know, and I could be dead wrong, you know. I don't have a crystal ball. But I really do feel that we can do this in a way we can have it both. I mean, I think that the technology is there, that we can extract this natural gas in a very safe manner. You know, if it comes down to it, if it's a question of drinking water versus natural gas, I'm for drinking water. Because we all need drinking water. I'm not that naive. I'm a hydrologist. I realize that humans need water before we need anything else. But the debate seems to be water, no drilling. No, I think we have both. And you know, when the Exxon Valdez slams up against the Alaskan coast, there's cost to every energy we have. When you drove here tonight, you know, you're having an impact. There's environmental costs. And I've seen it I worked on nuclear, you know, uranium enrichment facilities. I worked for coal burning power plants. I've seen the foreign oil refineries. I've seen a lot of it. And if you think that there's not environmental costs of all the energy we use, you're delusional. There's costs, and what we need to do is look at the data and weigh. Risk analysis. See which one is the best. And if it's proven that hydraulic fracturing can't be done safely, I'll be the first one to say no, stop it. But that, with all the wells that have been drilled in Pennsylvania, the more data that comes in, the more I realize it's safe. They say, well, what about the Pavilion well in Wyoming? That was a coal bed methane well. The fracking occurred in or around the water table. The EPA wells that supposedly got the contamination could have caused the contamination. There are pre-existing contamination sources in the area that could explain it. It's far from clear. The methane migration problems we hear about. I could bring it to 20 different towns in New York State where there's never been oil and gas drilling, and we've got methane migration problems. I can take, you know, the Gasland movie. You know, I can go up to a house in Westford, New York, turn the faucet on and light the sucker. There's never been a gas well drilled anywhere near.
Don't have to go that far.
I mean, so we gotta really spend our time gathering the information, not spinning it, looking at it in an objective way, and making a call. And Dr.
Mr.
Bishop,
Zaengle?
he can help.
Mr.
He can
Zaengle?
help in that. You know, all of us can.
Mr.
Yes, but I'm preaching.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between a ban and a moratorium? Because I am by no, they lump them together, and my understanding is that they have different functions.
Well, my
different
understanding.
uses. And so I would like you to, and with help from your fellow lawyers, to help tease apart, or if they're the same, then.
Well, you know, from the bottom line is, before I'd be able to tell you what the difference between a moratorium and ban, I'd want to see whatever ban or moratorium we're talking about. But generally a moratorium would be, you stop things, preserve the status quo, You just stop the activity. All right, and then a ban is you're actually saying, no, we're banning it, and the ban could last for as long, until you revoke it. You know, but it depends on the actual wording.
Mr. Zaengle?
Yeah.
Our comprehensive planning committee is asking for a 9-month moratorium. I've heard no one mention the work, the hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours that people have put into trying to get a really good plan put into place and into studying, into learning. What will that take? So I'm concerned that no one has mentioned that once.
Right.
I'm also concerned that we don't understand the difference, or we don't understand the difference between having a ban and a moratorium said in the same word. My understanding is that they're different, and that it's totally not actionable against us to press pause for 9 months and finish our work. So I would like to hear, and also Attorney General Snyderman's representative specifically told me that if we had some kind of comprehensive planning in place, that they would consider those communities separately and differently from those that didn't.
Yeah,
So
the bottom line
I
on
would
it-
like to understand,
Well,
that.
again, I think that's, you've got a valid question, concern, but I'm an oil and gas attorney, I can't help you out. You ask the town board maybe. But I agree, I mean,
You ask your cohort here.
What do you think,
The difference
Chris?
between a
You wanna-
moratorium and a ban, please.
There is no case or statute or regulation defining the difference between a moratorium and a ban. It's just, it's a political designation. The first moratorium was, in fact, Lydia Pierce correct me when she says there's no ban on gas drilling in New York. She's absolutely correct. The moratorium was not a ban on hydrofracking. It was a prohibition by the then existing governor that you couldn't use the shortcut to get your permit. But you could still get a permit. In fact, right now, you can get a permit to hydrofrac, high volume hydrofrac, horizontal well in the Marcellus, if you perform a site-specific EIS. But that process would be extremely difficult to do because it's extremely expensive and you're gonna basically have to duplicate what they've done in the SGEIS. The original GEIS, the Generic Environmental Impact Statement, was designed to shorten the permit period by allowing some piggybacking on the state environmental studies. The SGEIS came into being as a concept because some of the drilling techniques that were being offered up in the permits were not covered by the original GEIS, and to use that shortcut. In fact, if you read the governor's quote moratorium carefully, he does not ban anything. He simply says DEC is directed not to issue permits under the old GEIS until a supplemental for those items not covered in that. So there is not currently a ban on drilling or on hydrofracking in New York, just the manner of obtaining a permit.
And you are saying that there's no difference between a moratorium as a pause or as a waiting? as a-
Well, you know,
as a- like
I'm
a
sure that
buffer
Webster's
period?
would say a moratorium would be kind of a fixed duration suspension of activity. And a ban would be an indefinite period of prohibition, which is, that, I'd say it's just time difference. But there is no term of art in the law in New York for that, so it's whatever a court would determine. That's the understanding.
Would you speculate, or I guess, and I would need to, since we've heard a lot of, and I'm actually glad to have this much legal power in the same room at the same
Hey.
time.
remember the old axiom, you get what you pay for. Right? Right, I mean, I still haven't gotten a check here, so.
Listen, I want to say,
There's no liability, and I watched, did you read the disclaimer on the first
Don,
slide?
you're acting like this is your meeting, I want to say something. Listen, I just want to say a couple of things. First, I'd like to thank you for allowing people to ask more than one question. Because I've been, as you know, some of you people who know me, and at a lot of town meetings all over the state, and you're shut down after one question, you can't ask another question, or you have to fill out a 3x5 to get a question in, and then it might not even be picked. So thank you for allowing more than one question. I'd like to say that people need to ask these towns that are putting the bans in, what's your action plan? You're gonna vote in a moratorium or a ban, so you have more time to study it, because that's the guys you're doing it under. You're gonna study it. What are you gonna study? Who are you gonna pay to study it? Because I'm gonna foil it. If a town puts in a ban, I don't know if you people know what a foiling is, but I'm gonna foil it. I'm gonna find out who sent them letters, what their plan of action is, and I'm gonna ask for a monthly report, because you can't just put a ban in and not do anything, because that's gonna upset me as a landowner. I wanna know, or as a owner of mineral rights, I wanna know why this ban is in place and how you're putting it to use. You can't just do it and take it away from us for so long. It's so wrong to do that, because I'm not educated like the doctor here. I don't have the education that some of you people have, but I'm smart enough to know that when we have our things taken away from us, that we have a right to have some kind of target date and when we can get them back, when it's all good and said and done, when all is well and done. I am learning a lot about legal jargon, like foils, and I am gonna put that to work, but you gotta remember, a ban is just a ban if you're not doing anything. Demand that your town, if your town puts in a ban, and there's one of you and there's 50 of them that are for the ban, you gotta be the one that says, I wanna foil you, I wanna know what you're doing, what you're studying, and who you're paying, because what town can afford more than what the state's put into this? The state is putting so much money into it, millions of dollars. What town's gonna do that? The study's there for you already. Look at what the state's doing. I mean, guys, this isn't perfect. It's not perfect. There's flaws in everything everything and anything you can find flaws in it. But I'll tell you what, they got the money and the power more than any little town does. And that's pretty much it.